Every kingdom has one forgotten soul.
The one everyone decided was never enough.
Some destinies hide in silence. I finally found you.
She thought this was the moment her life would finally change. She was only beginning to discover who she truly was.
The night every unwanted woman gathered beneath the ancient moon hall, Nerissa told herself she would survive one final humiliation. Not because she believed anyone would choose her, but because tomorrow, if no alpha claimed her, her father would sell her to the iron quarries beyond the Frost Mountains, a place where people disappeared long before their bodies stopped breathing. The air inside the hall smelled of wet stone, burning cedar, and fear. 47 women stood in a long line beneath towering silver pillars, each waiting for a stranger to decide whether her future was worth a single glance. Some straightened their shoulders with fading pride. Others silently cried. A few stared at the floor as though they had already accepted defeat. Nerissa didn't either. She simply stood still beneath a dark cloak that covered her from neck to ankle, even though the crowded hall was unbearably warm. Nobody knew what lay beneath the fabric. Nobody ever would. Not if she could help it. Because hidden beneath the cloak, carved across her back, rested the mark that had destroyed her life before she was old enough to understand its meaning. A seal. A brand. A symbol every wolf recognized as proof that its bearer possessed no wolf soul. Worthless. Empty. Broken. At least. That was what she had been told since childhood. The first alpha approached. He paused before the first woman, asked questions, lifted her chin, examined her scent, then claimed her. Another alpha selected the second. Another chose the fourth. Another bargained over the seventh as though discussing the price of livestock. When they reached Nerissa, none of them stopped. Their eyes slid across her without interest. One even frowned slightly, as though confused why she occupied space at all. To wolves, scent was truth. Power had a smell. Lineage had a smell. Destiny itself carried a scent. But Nerissa, she carried nothing. No wolf. No pack. No future. Invisible. Exactly as her father intended. From across the hall, Lord Theon Morkant watched the procession with quiet satisfaction. He held a crystal goblet between gloved fingers, his expression colder than the winter outside. "One more hour," he murmured, to the merchant standing beside him. "If nobody takes her." The merchant nodded. "The labor contracts are prepared." No hesitation. No regret. Only business. Nerissa never heard the words. She didn't need to. She already knew. Her father had spent 24 years waiting for this night. Ever since her mother died, he had looked at her as though she were the mistake that should have died instead. A loud voice echoed across the chamber. Candidate 47. Applause. Another woman chosen. Only one remained. The auction master adjusted his scroll. His voice became noticeably less enthusiastic. And finally, he glanced toward Nerissa. Candidate 48. Several nobles barely looked up. One laughed quietly. Another whispered, "Why waste everyone's time?" Someone farther back answered, "Perhaps the quarry masters will find a use for her." Laughter spread. Not cruel. Simply casual. As though they discussed weather. Nerissa lowered her eyes. "Don't react. Don't cry. Don't give them another victory." The auction master cleared his throat. Female. 24 winters. House Morkant. He hesitated, then reluctantly continued. No confirmed wolf. Silence. Even the scribes stopped writing. Nobody moved. Nobody bid. The pause stretched longer than anyone found comfortable. Until the great bronze doors exploded inward. The sound crashed through Moon Hall like thunder. Wind swept across the chamber, extinguishing half the candles. Every alpha instinctively turned. Every guard reached for his weapon. Every wolf lowered his head. Power. Ancient. Unquestionable. Terrifying. Heavy footsteps echoed through the silence. 1, 2, 3. Then he appeared. Alpha King Keldon. The ruler no ordinary alpha dared challenge. The king whose victories had united fractured kingdoms. The man whispered about in legends. Tall. Dark-haired. silver eyes that reflected no fear because they had never learned the meaning of the word. He entered without ceremony, without escort, without announcing himself. He simply walked, and somehow, the entire hall moved aside before he reached them. Nobody ordered it. Nobody needed to. Predators recognized something even higher in the food chain. The auction master nearly dropped his scroll. "Why, Your Majesty?" Keldon never answered. His gaze swept across the gathered women, one after another, expression unreadable, until he stopped. Not at the first beauty, not at the noble daughters, not at the strongest she-wolves. His silver eyes locked onto the only woman every other alpha had ignored. Nerissa. She felt the impact before she understood it. Not fear. Recognition. As though something inside her chest suddenly remembered a name her mind had forgotten. Impossible. He couldn't be looking at her. He couldn't even sense her. Nobody ever could. Yet he walked straight toward her, every step louder than the last. The room held its breath. Lord Theon's face slowly lost its color. "No," he whispered. "No, not her." Keldon stopped less than an arm's length away. For the first time in her life, someone looked directly into Nerissa's eyes. Not through her. Not past her. At her. His expression did not hold pity or curiosity. It held certainty, the kind born from years of searching. Without asking permission, without touching her, he leaned close enough that only she could hear. His deep voice was barely above a whisper. "I finally found you." Nerissa forgot how to breathe, because at that exact moment, something buried deep beneath the scar on her back, something silent for 24 years, moved, just once, like a heartbeat awakening inside a prison. No one spoke. For several endless seconds, Moon Hall remained frozen beneath a silence so complete that Nerissa could hear the frantic beating of her own heart. "I finally found you." The words echoed inside her mind long after Alpha King Keldon straightened. Found her? How could that be possible? She had spent her entire life trying not to be noticed. Before she could ask what he meant, Keldon turned toward the stunned assembly. His voice carried effortlessly through the ancient hall. "This woman leaves with me." No anger, no hesitation, no explanation. Merely a statement that sounded less like a decision and more like destiny announcing itself. Chaos erupted. "What? Impossible. She has no wolf. Your Majesty must be mistaken." The auction master nearly stumbled off the platform. My king. Candidate 48 has never awakened a wolf spirit. Every examination has confirmed. I did not ask for your records." Keldon's silver eyes never left Nerissa. "I gave an order." The room instantly fell silent again. Across the chamber, Lord Theon forced himself forward, masking panic beneath practiced politeness. He bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, there must be some misunderstanding. My daughter is defective." The word struck Nerissa exactly as intended. Even now, even here, her own father couldn't resist saying it. Theon continued. "She cannot produce strong heirs. She possesses no wolf, no lineage worth joining, no political value. Allow me to offer one of my nieces instead." Several nobles nodded. That sounded reasonable. A king required alliances, strength, powerful bloodlines. Not her. Keldon finally looked away from Nerissa. Slowly, very slowly, his gaze settled upon Lord Theon. For a long moment, neither man spoke. The temperature inside the hall seemed to drop. "You speak with remarkable confidence." Keldon's voice remained calm, almost as though you've spent years convincing everyone of that story. A flicker crossed Theon's face. Tiny, barely noticeable. Fear. Nerissa had never seen her father afraid. Not once. He recovered quickly. "I merely speak the truth." "The truth," Keldon repeated softly. "Interesting." Then, without warning, he asked, "Tell me, Lord Morkant, when was the last time anyone examined the mark on your daughter's back?" Every trace of color vanished from Theon's face. The hall grew eerily quiet. Nerissa's breath caught. How? How did he know about the scar? She had never shown anyone. Not once. Not even servants. Not even physicians. Only her father knew. Theon answered too quickly. "It is only an old injury." Keldon smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a hunter who had finally cornered wounded prey. "No, it is not." Nerissa stared between the two men. Neither seemed aware that hundreds of people surrounded them. The entire hall had disappeared. Only predator and liar remained. "My king," Theon said carefully, "whatever rumors you've heard, I do not deal in rumors. Keldon interrupted. I deal in truth. He took one slow step closer. So let me ask again. What exactly did you seal? The question hit like lightning. Seal? Nerissa frowned. What seal? What was he talking about? Theon clenched his jaw. You've been misinformed. No. Keldon's voice became dangerously quiet. You've simply underestimated how long I've searched. Nerissa looked up sharply. Searched? For her? Why? Nothing made sense. She wasn't beautiful enough to start wars. She possessed no political importance. She had no wolf. No gift. Nothing. Unless everything she'd ever believed was wrong. The thought terrified her more than comforted her. Because if her father had lied, then who was she? Keldon slowly extended one hand toward her. Not demanding. Not commanding. Simply offering. Come. Nerissa hesitated. Every instinct warned her against trusting strangers. Especially kings. Especially powerful men. She glanced toward her father. For just an instant. His eyes met hers. Not with concern. Not with sadness. With desperation. Do not take his hand. That silent plea shocked her. Why would he fear it? Unless he knew exactly what would happen. Nerissa's fingers trembled. Then she made the first decision of her own life. She ignored her father and placed her hand in the king's. The instant their skin touched, pain exploded across her back. Not ordinary. Pain. Burning. Ancient. The hidden mark beneath her clothing blazed with unbearable heat. She gasped. Her knees almost buckled. Keldon's grip tightened before she could fall. The silver in his eyes widened. He had felt it too. Around them, every torch inside Moon Hall suddenly flickered. Several flames turned brilliant gold for a heartbeat before returning to normal. No one understood what had happened. Except two people, Lord Theon and Alpha King Keldon. Theon's face twisted into horror. No, he whispered. It can't be breaking already. Keldon's expression hardened. So, you knew? The king turned toward his guards. Escort Lady Nerissa to my carriage. Immediately, the guards obeyed without question. Theon stepped forward. You cannot take her. I am her father. Keldon didn't even look at him. No. His voice echoed across the chamber. You were merely her jailer. The words struck harder than any blade. Nerissa froze. Jailer? Her? Before she could process them, the royal guards surrounded her, guiding her toward the towering bronze doors. Hundreds of eyes followed. Some filled with jealousy, others with disbelief, most with fear. Nobody understood why the most powerful Alpha King alive had chosen the one woman every other wolf refused to acknowledge. Neither did Nerissa. Outside, rain poured across the palace courtyard. The royal carriage waited beneath black banners embroidered with silver wolves. As she climbed inside, she looked back one last time. Her father still stood in the entrance, completely motionless, watching her leave. Not like a father losing a daughter, but like a man watching 24 years of carefully buried secrets disappear into the night. The carriage doors closed. Darkness surrounded them. Only then did Keldon finally speak. Without looking at her. I owe you the truth. Nerissa swallowed. Then tell me. He remained silent for several heartbeats. When he finally turned toward her, there was something in his eyes she hadn't expected. Not triumph. Not relief. Regret. The life you believed was yours was stolen before you were old enough to remember. Nerissa felt the world tilt beneath her. Because, somehow, she already knew he wasn't lying. Rain hammered against the carriage roof as silence settled between them. Nerissa stared through the rain-blurred window, unable to process the king's last words. Asterisk, the life you believed was yours was stolen before you were old enough to remember. Asterisk, every lesson she had ever learned. Every insult, every punishment, every lonely night, every whispered reminder that she was worthless. Had all of it been built upon a lie? Finally, she spoke. What did my father steal? Keldon did not answer immediately. Instead, he reached beneath the opposite seat and removed a weathered wooden box no larger than a book. Its silver lock had long since lost its shine. He placed it carefully between them. I've carried this for 3 years. Nerissa frowned. For me? For the woman I hoped still existed. He opened the lid. Inside rested dozens of parchment pages, old maps, ancient sketches, fragments of burned manuscripts, and one faded portrait. The woman in the painting looked strangely familiar. Golden brown hair, quiet gray eyes, the same delicate jawline. Only, she smiled in a way Nerissa never had. My mother. Keldon nodded. Queen Helena Morkant. Nerissa's heart stopped. No, my mother was never a queen. She died before I turned 6. My father said, your father lied. His voice remained calm. He lied about almost everything. The carriage continued through the storm. Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. Inside, Nerissa's world continued collapsing. Keldon unfolded another document. It wasn't written in modern ink. The symbols shimmered faintly beneath the lantern. This was written over 400 years ago. It's part of the oldest prophecy ever preserved in Valdros. He slid the parchment toward her. Most of the language meant nothing, except one line translated beneath it. When the caged flame awakens beside the crown of shadow, one kingdom shall either be reborn or burned to ash. Nerissa read it twice, then 3 times. Finally she whispered, caged flame. Keldon's silver eyes met hers. That is you. She laughed, not because it was funny, because it was impossible. No, I'm nothing. I don't even have a wolf. You have. Something older. The words landed with terrifying certainty. Older than wolves. Older than kingdoms. Older than alpha blood itself. Nerissa slowly shook her head. This is madness. My father had every healer examine me. They found nothing. They found exactly what someone wanted them to find. Keldon's expression darkened. Power can be hidden, especially by ancient seals. He looked toward the rain-covered window. I spent years believing the prophecy was wrong. I searched dozens of kingdoms. I found women born beneath rare moons. Women carrying forgotten bloodlines. Women whose power shook mountains. But none of them, he looked back at her, made my wolf kneel. The words sent a chill through her. Kneel. The moment I entered Moon Hall, my wolf recognized you. Nerissa stared. Wolves don't make mistakes. They recognize blood. They recognize destiny. They recognize mates. His jaw tightened. But what happened yesterday wasn't recognition. It was relief. As though he had finally stopped searching. Silence returned. Nerissa lowered her eyes. I don't understand. I've never felt powerful. I've never even won a fight. I've always been afraid. Keldon's expression softened for the first time. Because someone wanted you afraid. He leaned forward. Fear keeps cages closed. The words lingered between them. Fear. How much of her life had been built upon fear? Fear of disappointing her father. Fear of exposing the scar. Fear of being rejected. Fear of hoping. Suddenly, a sharp pain pierced her back. She inhaled sharply. The burning returned. Far stronger than before. Heat spread beneath her skin. She grabbed the edge of the seat. What is happening? Keldon's expression changed instantly. The seal. His eyes narrowed. It's reacting. Before Nerissa could ask another question, golden light flashed beneath her cloak. Only for an instant, but long enough to illuminate the carriage. Keldon reached toward her, then stopped himself. I need permission. She blinked. What? I need to examine the seal. I won't touch you without permission. The request stunned her. Her entire life. People had decided. Everything for her. What to wear. Where to sleep. When to speak. When to remain silent. No one had ever asked. Not once. Keldon waited. Patiently. As though her answer truly mattered. Slowly. She nodded. You may. He moved carefully behind her. Never rushing. Never forcing. His hand stopped several inches from her shoulders. I need to move the cloak. Another pause. Another chance to refuse. Again she nodded. The heavy fabric slipped just enough to expose the upper edge of her back. Cold air touched skin that almost no one had ever seen. Keldon inhaled sharply. Not with disgust. With disbelief. It survived. What survived? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he whispered almost to himself. I never thought anyone could maintain this spell for 24 years. Nerissa turned slightly. What do you see? His voice had become almost reverent. This isn't a scar. Her pulse quickened. What is it? It's a royal prison seal. The words echoed inside the carriage. A prison, built to imprison living fire. Everything inside Nerissa froze. Living? Fire? She had expected anything. A curse. A disease. Some forgotten wolf mark. Not this. Keldon's fingertips hovered just above the glowing symbol. He still hadn't touched her. The magic is failing. Why now? Because. He hesitated. The moment our hands met, your power recognized mine. The carriage suddenly lurched to a violent stop. Outside came shouting. Then steel clashing against steel. Royal guards yelled. Hold the line. Assassins. An arrow shattered through the carriage window. Glass exploded across the floor. Keldon reacted instantly. One arm wrapped protectively around Nerissa. The other drew a black blade that shimmered with silver runes. Another arrow struck the carriage door. Then another. Then dozens. Someone outside screamed. The horses panicked. The carriage tipped sideways. Keldon's eyes became ice. They found us too quickly. Nerissa's heart pounded. Who? He looked toward the darkness beyond the shattered window. The people who spent 24 years making sure you would never discover who you really are. As if answering his words, a deep voice echoed through the storm. Kill the king, but bring the girl alive. Nerissa felt every drop of blood leave her face. They weren't hunting the Alpha King. They were hunting her. Kill the king, but bring the girl alive. The command rolled through the rain like thunder. Nerissa's heartbeat froze. They weren't after Valdros. They weren't after the throne. They had come for her. Outside, steel collided with steel. Royal guards formed a defensive circle around the overturned carriage as black-cloaked warriors emerged from the forest like ghosts. No banners, no insignias, no voices, only disciplined killers moving with terrifying precision. Keldon's expression hardened. I was afraid of this. Nerissa looked at him. You know them? I know what they serve. He opened the carriage door. Cold rain rushed inside. Stay behind me. I'm not leaving you alone. You aren't. His silver eyes met hers. But if I fall, you run. I'm not abandoning you. His jaw tightened. You will if I order it. Before she could argue, the first assassin landed on the carriage roof. The wood exploded beneath the impact. A curved blade pierced through the ceiling only inches from Nerissa's shoulder. Keldon moved. Not fast. Faster than sight itself. His black sword flashed once. The assassin's weapon shattered into glowing fragments. Another flash. The attacker disappeared into the darkness without a sound. Nerissa stared. She had never witnessed a true Alpha King fight. Stories hadn't come close. He wasn't battling. He was controlling the battlefield. Every movement economical. Every strike final. Every breath perfectly measured. Yet something felt wrong. He was holding back. 5 more assassins surrounded them. None attacked immediately. Instead, they waited. Watching. Studying. One finally stepped forward. Unlike the others, his face remained uncovered. Silver scars crossed both cheeks. His pale eyes ignored Keldon completely. They fixed only on Nerissa. So, he said quietly, the seal has begun breaking. Keldon lifted his sword. You chose the wrong night. The scarred man smiled. No, we chose exactly the right one. Rain dripped from his hood. For 24 years we've searched for the caged flame. And now, he looked directly at Nerissa. She finally awakened. Nerissa's stomach tightened. You know who I am? We know what you are. I don't. No. His smile widened. You don't. And that ignorance has kept you alive. The words made no sense. Keldon stepped between them. You won't touch her. The assassin laughed softly. You still believe you can protect her? You can't even protect yourself. His gaze shifted briefly toward the king. The shadow inside you grows weaker every day. Nerissa looked sharply at Keldon. Shadow? Before she could ask, the assassin vanished. Not ran. Vanished. Only to reappear directly behind Keldon. Metal screamed. Their swords collided. Shockwaves blasted across the clearing. Trees bent beneath invisible force. Royal guards were thrown backward. Nerissa stumbled into the mud. She struggled to breathe. The pressure radiating from both warriors felt almost unbearable. Again they exchanged blows. Again. Again. Neither seemed human anymore. Silver light clashed against black lightning. The forest itself trembled. Then, Keldon suddenly faltered. Just once. Barely noticeable. But enough. The assassin's blade sliced across Keldon's ribs. Blood spread instantly through his dark coat. And no. Nerissa rushed forward. Keldon raised one hand without turning. Stay back. She stopped. Not because she wanted to. Because something in his voice told her this wasn't an ordinary wound. Black mist seeped from the cut. Not blood alone. Something darker. Alive. The assassin stepped back calmly. I wondered how long it would take. Keldon's breathing became heavier. Nerissa stared at the strange darkness escaping from his body. What is that? He didn't answer. His jaw remained locked. The assassin answered instead. His prison. Nerissa frowned. What prison? The one inside him. Lightning illuminated the clearing. For one horrifying second, she saw movement beneath Keldon's skin. Something large. Something trying to claw its way out. Her blood ran cold. Keldon, his eyes remained fixed on the enemy. Don't look. Too late. She had already seen it. The assassin's voice remained almost gentle. Did he tell you? Tell me what? That every Alpha King of Valdros carries a curse. Silence. Rain continued falling. Even the battle around them seemed distant. Now, Nerissa slowly looked toward Keldon. He still said nothing, which frightened her more than any answer. The royal bloodline made a bargain centuries ago. The assassin continued. They gained unimaginable strength. But strength always demands payment. Nerissa remembered something. The prophecy. The crown of shadow. Shadow. Not metaphor. Reality. She whispered. There's something inside him. The assassin nodded. Very good. It sleeps. It feeds. And one day, it consumes. No. Keldon's voice cut through the storm. You've said enough. His sword burst into silver light brighter than before. The ground cracked beneath his feet. For the first time, fear crossed the assassin's face. So, he whispered, you're willing to use that power. Keldon answered quietly. I'll use whatever keeps her alive. The words struck Nerissa harder than the battle itself. Her. Not the kingdom. Not the throne. Her. The assassin's side. Always the same. You kings never learn. He raised both hands. Darkness spread beneath every tree. Shadows detached themselves from the earth. Dozens. Then hundreds. Not men. Creatures. Black wolves with burning crimson eyes emerged silently from the forest. Royal guards instinctively stepped backward. One whispered, shadow beasts. Another crossed himself in fear. There are too many. Nerissa's breathing quickened. The creatures weren't looking at the soldiers. Every pair of crimson eyes watched only her. The scarred assassin smiled. The king cannot protect you. The guards cannot protect you. And your seal is already breaking. He slowly extended one hand toward her. Come willingly. You belong with us. Nerissa stepped backward. I don't even know who you are. No. You only know the lie. He lowered his hand. So let me tell you the truth. His pale eyes glowed strangely. You were never born to become a queen. You were never born to become someone's mate. You were created, he paused, to become the vessel of the first flame. The world seemed to stop. Vessel? Before Nerissa could even understand the words, an unbearable heat exploded across her back. The hidden seal burned hotter than ever. Before, she screamed. Golden light burst through her cloak. Cracks of brilliant fire raced beneath her skin. Every shadow beast recoiled at once. The assassin's smile disappeared. His eyes widened. No, he whispered. It shouldn't awaken this soon. Keldon turned toward her. His face lost every trace of composure. Nerissa, but it was already too late. The ancient seal split open with a deafening crack. And for the first time in 24 years, something inside Nerissa answered the call. The seal shattered. A sound unlike anything Nerissa had ever heard echoed across the forest. Not metal, not stone. Something older, something alive. Golden cracks spread beneath the skin of her back, racing across her shoulders like molten rivers before vanishing beneath her collarbone. The pain was unbearable. She collapsed onto one knee. Her scream echoed through the valley. Then, silence. Every shadow beast froze. Every assassin stopped moving. Even the rain seemed to hesitate. The forest itself held its breath. The scarred assassin slowly stepped backward. His confidence had disappeared. No, he whispered. It awakened. Keldon reached Nerissa first. He dropped beside her without hesitation. Nerissa, his hands hovered inches from her shoulders. Not because he feared her, because he feared hurting her. Can you hear me? She wanted to answer. Instead, another heartbeat echoed inside her chest. Not her own. A second heartbeat. Slow, ancient, powerful. Boom, boom, boom. With every pulse, the air grew warmer. The rain striking the ground turned into rising steam. Leaves curled at their edges. The mud beneath Nerissa's knees hardened into black glass. Keldon's silver eyes widened. It remembers. Nerissa barely managed to whisper, what remembers? He looked directly into her eyes. The flame. Before she could ask another question, voices flooded her mind. Not one. Thousands. Whispers. Prayers. Cries. Songs sung in languages forgotten by history. She clutched her head. No. Make them stop. A woman's voice rose above all the others. Gentle, warm. Nerissa. Her breathing stopped. She knew that voice. Impossible. Mother. The whisper returned. You were never empty. You were never broken. You were hidden. Tears filled Nerissa's eyes. I can't see you. You don't need to. You only need to remember. Images exploded through her mind. A nursery filled with golden light. A woman laughing. Tiny flames dancing harmlessly above a baby's cradle. Strong hands lifting her into the air. Her mother smiling. Not afraid. Never afraid. Then, everything changed. Darkness. Men in black robes. Her father shouting. An elderly sorcerer drawing. Symbols across her tiny back. Her mother's desperate screams. Don't seal her. She must learn. A burst of golden fire. Then, silence. The memories vanished. Nerissa gasped for breath. They sealed me. Keldon's expression became grim. I know. My father. He knew. I know. He lied. I know. The words broke something inside her. Not because they hurt. Because someone finally believed her. A deafening roar shattered the moment. The scarred assassin raised both hands. Enough. Darkness exploded outward. Hundreds of shadow beasts charged at once. The forest shook beneath pounding claws. Royal guards rushed forward. They were overwhelmed instantly. Men disappeared beneath black wolves. Steel shattered. Trees fell. Chaos swallowed the battlefield. Keldon stood. His sword ignited with silver light. Stay behind me. Nerissa tried. She truly tried. But the flame inside her refused. Heat flooded every vein. Golden light escaped through her fingertips. The nearest shadow beast leaped. Keldon moved to intercept. Too late. Instinct took over. Nerissa raised one trembling hand. She didn't know what she intended. She didn't even know how. The world flashed white. A column of golden fire erupted between them. Not wild. Not destructive. Perfectly controlled. The shadow beast disappeared instantly. Not burned. Purified. It dissolved into thousands of glowing sparks that drifted upward like fireflies. The battlefield stopped. Every soldier stared. Every assassin stared. Even Keldon stared. Nerissa looked at her own hand in disbelief. I didn't. The scarred assassin's face had gone pale. So it's true. The first flame chooses mercy before wrath. He slowly removed his hood completely. For the first time, Nerissa saw how old he truly was. Far older than any ordinary wolf. I have searched for you longer than you've been alive. His voice no longer carried hatred. Only exhaustion. You don't understand what you've inherited. I don't even understand what I am. No. You understand nothing. He looked toward Keldon. And that is precisely why she cannot remain beside you. Keldon's grip tightened around his sword. She chooses her own future. Does she? The assassin's eyes returned to Nerissa. Did he tell you why he searched for you? Nerissa hesitated. He showed me the prophecy. The assassin laughed bitterly. Only half of it. Keldon's expression darkened. Enough. But the old assassin continued. The prophecy doesn't end with the kingdom being saved. It ends with a sacrifice. Nerissa felt cold despite the fire surrounding her. Sacrifice. The old man nodded. The caged flame can destroy the crown of shadow, but only by giving up the life that carries the flame. Silence. Keldon closed his eyes. Just briefly. That single movement answered every question. He knew. He had always known. Nerissa slowly turned toward him. Is it true? He said nothing. Keldon. Still nothing. Finally, his shoulders fell. Yes. The single word struck harder than any blade. The prophecy says. His voice cracked for the first time. That if the shadow is ever to disappear forever, the flame must burn itself away. Nerissa couldn't breathe. So, my death is part of saving you? No. He stepped toward her desperately. I was going to find another way. There isn't one. The old assassin spoke quietly. We've searched for 500 years. There has never been another ending. Tears blurred Nerissa's vision. All this time, she had believed destiny had finally chosen her. Instead, it had only chosen the manner of her death. Keldon dropped his sword. The blade struck the ground with a heavy clang. He walked toward her until only inches separated them. I don't care about the prophecy anymore. His voice was barely above a whisper. I don't care about the throne. I don't care about the kingdom. If saving the world costs your life, then let the world burn. Nerissa stared into his silver eyes. For the first time, the walls around his heart were completely gone. No king. No alpha. Only a man terrified of losing the woman he loved. Before she could answer, the darkness inside Keldon suddenly erupted. Black veins spread across his neck. His pupils dissolved into endless shadow. He staggered backward. No, he whispered. Not now. The ancient curse had heard every word. And now, it was waking. No. Keldon staggered backward, clutching his chest as black veins raced beneath his skin like living serpents. The silver in his eyes flickered. Silver. Black. Silver. Black. Each heartbeat looked like a battle being fought inside his soul. Nerissa. His voice sounded distant. Don't come closer. She ignored him. Keldon. Stay back. The command exploded through the clearing. Not from the king. From something else. Something ancient. The darkness around him twisted violently, wrapping around his body until it towered above the battlefield like a living storm. The shadow had awakened. Every assassin immediately dropped to one knee. Even the scarred elder lowered his head. The crown of shadow. He whispered. It has finally emerged. The creature's burning eyes settled on Nerissa. Its voice sounded like thousands speaking at once. So, you are the flame. Golden fire answered instinctively. It erupted around Nerissa without harming her, forming a brilliant halo that pushed the surrounding darkness backward. For the first time in centuries, light and shadow faced one another, not as enemies, as equals. Inside the darkness, Keldon's voice fought to break free. Run, please, before I lose myself. Tears filled Nerissa's eyes. No, I spent my whole life running from who I was. I'm done running. The shadow laughed. You think love can defeat eternity? I don't know. She took one step forward. But I know fear never has. The ancient creature watched her with unsettling curiosity. You would die for him. I would live for him. The answer surprised even Nerissa. The flame around her blazed brighter. The creature tilted its head. There is a difference. There is. She continued walking. Every step left glowing footprints across the rain-soaked earth. My father taught me fear. The world taught me shame. Destiny told me sacrifice. She stopped only a few feet away from the towering darkness. But none of them ever asked, what I choose? Silence spread across the battlefield. The shadow stared at her. Then, it smiled. Not cruelly. Sadly. Choice. No human has spoken that word to me in 500 years. The darkness slowly opened. Inside, Keldon hung suspended within endless black mist, barely conscious. His silver eyes found hers. I'm sorry. His voice was little more than a whisper. I brought this to you. You brought me freedom. She smiled through tears. You were the first person who ever looked at me and saw someone worth saving. Keldon closed his eyes. I love you. The words carried no fear now. No hesitation. Only truth. The shadow warred. Black lightning exploded across the sky. The bond is complete. The prophecy demands payment. Golden flames surged higher around Nerissa. The voices returned. Not thousands this time. Only one. Her mother's. Asterisk, power was never meant to consume you. Asterisk, asterisk, it was always meant to answer you. Asterisk, Nerissa closed her eyes. For the first time, she stopped fighting the flame. She welcomed it. Warmth flowed through every part of her body. Not burning. Healing. She finally understood. The flame had never been a weapon. It was life itself. Protection. Hope. The opposite of fear. Her eyes opened. Now they shone like liquid gold. She looked directly at the shadow. You've misunderstood the prophecy. The creature froze. It never says the flame must die. It says. She remembered the ancient words. When the caged flame awakens beside the crown of shadow, it says the flame must burn away the prison. Not the soul. The prison. Understanding slowly spread across the shadow's face. Impossible. No, not impossible. Forgotten. For centuries, everyone had interpreted the prophecy through sacrifice. No one had considered liberation. Nerissa raised one glowing hand. I don't choose death. I choose freedom. Golden fire left her fingertips, not exploding outward, flowing gently, like sunlight after endless winter. It entered the darkness surrounding Keldon. Instead of destroying it, it illuminated it. The shadow screamed, not in pain, in release. Chains appeared inside the darkness. Massive black chains wrapped around Keldon's soul. Ancient, cracked, forged from fear itself. The flame wrapped around those chains. One by one, they shattered. The earth trembled. Mountains echoed. Across the kingdom, wolves fell too. Their knees as an ancient curse broke for the first time in history. The shadow looked at Nerissa one final time. You were never my enemy. Its monstrous form slowly dissolved into countless black feathers. I was only the prison built by frightened men. The feathers disappeared into the morning sky. Silence followed. The darkness vanished. Keldon collapsed. Nerissa caught him before he struck the ground. For one terrifying moment, he didn't move. Keldon, nothing. Her hands trembled. Please. Then, he inhaled. A long, steady breath. His eyes slowly opened. Silver. Only silver. No darkness remained. He looked at her as though seeing the sunrise for the first time. It's warm. He laughed softly. My hands. They're warm. Nerissa smiled through tears. So are mine. He reached up and gently touched her cheek. No prophecy. No curse. No bargains. Just us. She nodded. Just us. Behind them, the scarred elder slowly approached. His eyes no longer carried the weight of centuries. I spent my entire life protecting the wrong ending. He bowed deeply before Nerissa. Your Majesty. No. She gently shook her head. I'm simply Nerissa. The old man smiled. Perhaps. But history will remember something else. What? The queen who rewrote destiny. ####. 6 months later, spring had returned to Valdros. The forests bloomed brighter than anyone could remember. Children laughed in palace gardens where soldiers once stood guard. No one feared hidden curses anymore. The old prison beneath the royal castle had become a sanctuary where gifted children learned to master unusual powers instead of hiding from them. Lord Theon stood before the High Council. His crimes had been proven, his title stripped, his wealth confiscated. His sentence would be spent rebuilding the villages destroyed by his own ambition. It was not revenge. It was justice. Ligia chose to remain beside her sister, becoming the kingdom's first ambassador responsible for protecting children born with rare gifts. The old cycle of fear had finally ended. One quiet evening, Nerissa stood on the palace balcony watching the sunset. Strong arms wrapped gently around her waist. Keldon rested his forehead against hers. What are you thinking about? She smiled. My entire life. I believed someone had to choose me before I had value. She intertwined her fingers with his. But you taught me something different. What was that? That the day I chose myself was the day destiny finally changed. Keldon kissed her forehead. I didn't save you. She smiled. No, we saved each other. Far below, the kingdom celebrated the Festival of Dawn, a new holiday marking the end of 5 centuries of fear. Golden lanterns rose into the evening sky. Children released them one by one. Each lantern carried the same words. No soul is born broken. Nerissa watched them disappear among the stars. Once, she had believed she was invisible. Now she understood the truth. The brightest flame is often the one the world tries hardest to hide. But no prison, no lie, no fear can silence the light forever.